In the last several lessons, we have dealt a lot with converting different measurements. And there's a lot of conversions you need to have memorized. So in this lesson, what we're doing is we are basically reviewing all those conversions and all the different topics we've discussed in the last several lessons. So this is a review lesson, and we're just going to go through the different conversions. So there's about 30 of them. And then as far as actually converting, like say you had to convert like 5 ounces to grams, we're going to assume you know how to do that pretty well. You'll get some practice with that in the practice questions. But our objective primarily is just to recap the conversions. All right. So what we're doing in the first slide is all these conversions. We start with 1 foot equals how many inches. And for all these, by the way, we're going to have the blank put in here where you can try to recall from your own memory what the different answers would be. So try to do that as much as possible, but we will go through each of these. So 1 foot equals how many inches? Well, that would be 12. And then we have 1 yard equals how many feet? That's going to be 3 feet. And then 1 yard is how many inches? Well, if there's 3 feet in a yard and each foot has 12 inches, 3 times 12 gives you 36 inches in 1 yard. And then 1 mile would equal how many feet? That's going to be 5,280 feet. And then miles to yards, 1 mile would equal 1,760 yards. And then over here we have 1 pound equals how many ounces? And the answer is 16. 1 ton equals how many pounds? This would be 2,000 pounds. 1 cup would be how many fluid ounces? That would be 8 fluid ounces for 1 cup. And then 1 pint is how many cups? Well, that's going to be 2 cups. There are 2 cups in 1 pint. And then next we have how many pints in 1 quart? And again, that's going to be 2. So there's 2 cups in a pint, 2 pints in a quart. And then how many quarts in 1 gallon? There are 4 quarts in 1 gallon. So the answer is 4 for that one. Okay, then over here we have metric units. So we have 1 kilometer equals how many meters? The prefix kilo means 1,000. So 1 kilometer would be 1,000 meters. And then 1 meter would be how many centimeters? The prefix centi means 100. So 1 meter would be 100 centimeters. And then how many milliliters in a meter? Or sorry, millimeters in a meter. That's going to be 1,000. The prefix milli means 1,000, as well as kilo means 1,000, but kilo is bigger than a meter, and milli is smaller than a meter. Down here we have volume. We have 1 liter equals how many milliliters? And again, this would be 1,000 because the prefix milli means 1,000. Then 1 gram would be how many milligrams? So again, the prefix milli means 1,000. So we see milligrams, milliliters, millimeters. All of those would be 1,000 of whatever unit we're discussing. Here we see 1 kilogram equals how many grams? So just like kilometer was 1,000 meters, so kilo means 1,000 up there, kilogram would be 1,000 grams. Now we have some time measurements. We have 1 minute equals how many seconds? And that's going to be 60 seconds. 1 hour equals how many minutes? Again, that would be 60 minutes. So 60 minutes in an hour, and then 60 seconds in a minute. And then here we have how many hours in 1 day? Well, that's going to be 24, or 24 hours in a day. And now converting from metric into imperial measurements, we have 1 inch would equal how many centimeters? So these ones are not as easily memorized, but the answer should be 2.5 centimeters. 1 foot would be how many centimeters? And that would be about 30. So 1 foot is about 30 centimeters. Here we have 1 mile is approximately how many kilometers? And this one is 1.6. And then 1 meter is approximately how many inches? And this would be 39. So 1 meter is about 39 inches. What about 1 fluid ounce? how many milliliters would be in 1 fluid ounce. And that's going to be about 30. It's about 30 milliliters in 1 fluid ounce. Next we have 1 liter is approximately how many quarts? That's going to be 1 quart. So 1 liter is about 1 quart. How about how many grams in an ounce? This would be about 30. It's about 30 grams in 1 ounce. What about kilograms to pounds? How many pounds in a kilogram? This would be 2.2 pounds for 1 kilogram. All right, so these were, I think, pretty much all of the measurements that we discussed from the last several lessons. And if you notice, just one thing to point out, if you're struggling with these conversions over here, converting imperial into metric or vice versa, okay, the most frequently used number we see is 30, right? 1 foot is 30 centimeters, and 1 fluid ounce is 30 milliliters, and 1 ounce is 30 grams. So if you had a guess, 30 is the most commonly used number. So we see it used 3 times just in this list right here. And now remember, when you're converting, all right, if you're going from a smaller to a larger unit, smaller to larger, we divide. And then if you're going from a larger to a smaller unit, you multiply. So smaller to larger, divide, larger to smaller, multiply. Okay, next we want to review the adding and subtracting of measurements. So here we have 4 yards, 2 feet, plus 3 yards, 2 feet. Now remember, when you add and subtract, okay, you're adding basically the like measurements together. So we're adding the yards together and then adding the feet. So putting the yards together, we have 7 yards, and then the feet would be 4 feet. And then after you add or subtract, always make sure that you simplify if possible. So here we have 4 feet. Notice there's 3 feet in a yard, right? So if we take 4 divided by 3, that gives you 1, and the remainder is going to be 1 as well. What that means is we have 1 yard, and the remainder 1 means we have 1 foot remaining. So 7 yards plus 1 yard, 1 foot, you would have 8 yards and 1 foot. So that would be your final answer for this problem. Here is another example, and here we are dealing with subtraction. We have 5 feet, 3 inches, minus 2 feet, 8 inches. Now, same concept, you want to subtract the like units, so feet subtract with feet, inches with inches. The only problem here is that if you subtract 3 inches minus 8 inches, that gives you a negative number. So we need to actually borrow from the 5 feet. We're going to take 1 foot from here, that becomes 4 feet, and the foot we borrow, we're going to put over here as inches. All right, so we have 12 inches plus the 3 inches, that gives you 15 inches. So what we have is 4 feet, 15 inches, minus the 2 feet, 8 inches. Now we can subtract feet by feet. So 4 minus 2 feet would be 2 feet. And then 15 inches minus 8 inches would give you 7 inches. So your final answer would be 2 feet, 7 inches. Now to finish off our review, we have here converting between Fahrenheit and the Celsius scale for measuring temperature. All right, so these here are your 2 formulas, and it's going to be important to have these memorized. All right, so for this one, we'll do one example of each. So example 1, we are converting 59 degrees Fahrenheit into something Celsius. When you do this, make sure that you follow order of operations. So we see the parentheses, we want to do that first. So you plug the 59 in for F, because that's Fahrenheit, so plug that in for F for Fahrenheit. So we have 5/9 times 59 minus 32. And then following order of operations, we need to subtract first 59 minus 32. Subtract the parentheses. I guess that's why we're doing it first, because it's in parentheses. So we subtract till you get 27. And then from here we multiply. This is 27 over 1. And before you multiply, you can simplify first. 27 and 9, divide both by 9 to get 3 and 1. So what we have is 5 times 3, or 15 on the top, over 1 times 1, which is 1 on the bottom. That gives you your answer of 15. So C is 15, which means that 59 degrees Fahrenheit would equal 15 degrees Celsius. Now going the other way, we have this other formula over here, where F equals 9/5 times C plus 32. All right, so when you do this one, we're going to have 35 degrees Celsius converting into Fahrenheit. And what we do is we plug in whatever number we're converting in place of C. So what we have is 9/5 times 35, and then we add 32 after. All right, so when you multiply, you do that first. Okay, 35 over 1. You can simplify it before you multiply. 5 and 35, divide both by 5. You gives you 1 and 7. So what we have on the top is 9 times 7, which is 63, over 1, which is just 63. So we have 63 plus 32 over here. When you add that together, we get our answer of 95. So F is 95, which means that for 35 degrees Celsius would equal 95 degrees Fahrenheit. So that concludes our review for this lesson, and I would recommend going through some practice questions, especially with the conversions there at the beginning, because there's so many conversions to have memorized. But get some practice with the practice questions, and hopefully by the end you should have those down pretty well. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.